Happy Friday, everybody who has come to join. And I hope to get somebody on the air a little later, Landon McCarthy, who, we pretty much, we're both people from the Hard News Network crowd. So I want to have his take, especially on the Russia issue. We're going to talk about a number of topics today. First of all, while we're waiting for people to come in, let me talk about for lack of a better topic, the NFL draft. Um, I was watching yesterday. I was at the gym, and honestly, uh, aside from the fact that it was way too long and it was pretty much, stretching it out and milking the time between the draft prospects, as always, it wasn't as bad as it could have been. Hey, we got Lennon McCarthy
Hey,
here.
how's it going?
Hold on, let me get my headset. For some reason, I can't. Whenever I live stream, I gotta have a headset, or else I can't even concentrate. What's up, man?
Not much. I'm gonna have to reformat my Macintosh that I do Comrade Trumpsky on because I tried to update it and it pretty much failed and broke everything.
Yeah, I saw that.
I got super triggered. I'm more calm now. I spent like a couple hours on the phone with them this morning. It's still not fixed, but it's just I'm gonna have to reformat it, which I was kind of thinking about anyway because it's old, so it is what it is. But I got super triggered.
Yeah, I was wigging out about what's it called? Microsoft's their licenses for Office yesterday. They for some reason they always deregister me, and then I have to re-register. Even though I bought the computer like less than a year ago.
The Microsoft and Apple are like they're like the Democrats and Republicans of like the computing world or something. Cause it's like they're both fucking horrible. And then you're like, oh, you know what? I'm cool because Apple's like better than Microsoft and shit. It's like, no, they suck too. I mean, I think that the operating system with Microsoft has more holes and stuff in it. I still think that, but as a company, I mean, Apple's like demonstrated that they're horrible people.
Everything has to be political, does it?
Yeah, I mean, it's okay. It's okay if you want to be like left leaning, but don't like. It's like you don't have to take it to the level of turning it into like a 1984 dystopia. It's like no, just like calm down with that shit. You can be a little bit liberal. It doesn't mean you have to like control the world's speech.
Anyways, so we're gonna get into today's topics. Of course,
I don't know anything about football, but that's okay.
So I'll get that one out of the way because I was just while I was waiting for you and for people to walk in. The NFL draft, not nearly as political as the NFL season this year, but it was pretty funny watching the commissioner Roger Goodell walk on stage and get booed every 10 minutes. There was one time I think he didn't get booed, and that was because he went on stage with this kid from St. Jude's Children's Hospital who was like suffering from cancer. So they gave him like one respite, and then every other time they were just shitting on him. And of course, I'm a Cowboys fan. I have to comment on our pick, who was a linebacker. I was very confused about that. I thought we were going for a wide receiver. And then, there were some funny moments, like, because I live in Ohio, so all these Browns fans were basically, for the first 20 minutes, they were waiting to see who's going to be the next sorry bastard to put on the brown and orange. So we have these two streets here called Taylor and Mayfield, and now the starting quarterbacks for the teams is Tyrod Taylor, and then his backup is going to be Baker Mayfield. So I said that for the season, every week at 4 p.m. I'm going to sell puke buckets at the corner of Taylor and Mayfield. So
I say I don't really know who like most of these people are, but I always appreciate a good pun though.
And it's a local joke too, so most people.
No, when you stay in the corner of like you just put it a pun, I'll just laugh at it. That's good. It's a good joke.
That's okay, man. My self-esteem doesn't need any. I'm just kidding.
No, I'm just saying I like those type of jokes. It doesn't even matter if I know who the people are.
So on to stuff that actually matters. I do want to say
Like
that,
Kanye.
yeah, Kanye, but there's, I have a viewer and participant who says
Oh, I
sometimes
haven't looked in the chat.
that I don't talk about, not today, that I don't think there's anybody in the
Oh,
chat
okay.
yet. Wow, this is
Oh, I
weird.
should tweet this out or something.
Yeah, you can
That'd be a good idea.
still tweet it out. You can still do that. But I
Oh,
want people.
I'm gonna echo. No, what happened? Fuck. No, I'm echoing now. I don't know what I'm doing with my computer.
1 second. So those of you that don't know,
Okay.
there's this new bill on the House floor to make an incentive for states to automatically enroll you in Obamacare if you don't have insurance.
What? Oh, okay. Well,
so this is from yesterday.
If they're not punishing people, it's like I have less of a problem with it. But it's such bullshit when they're like, "Oh, it's affordable care," and you know what the best part is? If you can't afford it, we're gonna fine you and not give you anything. Like, what the fuck is that? You know?
Well, now they're just gonna put you in the plan without telling you, and then they give you.
I mean, listen, if they give you some stuff for free and you can opt in and opt out, then okay. But it's just when they like are twisting people's arms into some bullshit, it's where I disagree with it, you know.
So Representative Amy Barra from California is proposing to test automatically enrolling people in Obamacare plans as a way to cut the uninsured rate. Barra unveiled a bill that would give grants to states to set up pilot programs to automatically enroll eligible people in Obamacare plans or Medicaid. People would still have 60 days to opt out if they wanted to, so they would not be forced to buy coverage. But Barra says the idea is that people are more likely to sign up if the default is to be signed up and they need to actively opt out of coverage. So that's kind of like the opposite of the YouTube subscriber thing. Like,
well, yeah, I don't like when companies are like, oh, you know what we're gonna do? We're just gonna force you to do business with us. That never goes well. Like, you know, when
we're just gonna assume you want to buy this.
Yeah, well, when I had AT&T phone service years ago, I still remember. This is a long time ago when I canceled it because I think I was moving, but I was also like, you know, I wasn't happy with them either. But I was moving, so I was canceling it. But it's like they literally wouldn't they wouldn't get off the phone with me and just let me cancel it. I was like screaming at them, just cancel my fucking phone service. You know what I mean? Like that doesn't. It's a little too clingy. That's kind of how the Democratic Party is, you know.
Well,
like they won't take no for an answer.
Unfortunately, it looks like one of the Republicans has signed on to it too, Senator Bill Cassidy of Louisiana. So it's a two-party duopoly bullshit thing. And
I'm tweeting out a link, so maybe people watch. Sorry.
so get this quote from the congressman. He says, "Health insurance is complicated, and people are busy. Reducing complexity and making non-enrollment the onerous choice has been found to be both popular and effective. Opt-out enrollment in retirement plans boosted participation rates to 90% from just 33% using traditional enrollment." So Barra, a doctor who has faced close elections in recent years and has worked with the centrist Problem Solvers Caucus in the House, also released a bill. I think it's like, people who create problems and then they pretend to solve them. Also released a bill to change the dates of the Obamacare enrollment period. His bill proposes to move the date so enrollment ends on April 15th, coinciding with the tax filing deadline, arguing that the current sign-up period centered on December discourages people from signing up if they are busy around the holiday season. So Lennon, let me just put this on the table. And I mean, every time you hear some bullshit, how about you shout at the screen or something?
I just want to post one more link to Gab, and I'll pay attention.
So here's their idea here. They're saying that you, the American consumer, are too dumb and too busy to pay attention to what's going on with your insurance. So they're just going to assume that you want this insurance if you're not insured yet, and they're going to enroll you in Obamacare. And then they're also saying that you're slow. So you're also so first you're dumb and lazy, and too busy to enroll in insurance. That's what they're saying. And then they say that you're too slow to enroll by the end of the year, holiday season, when people are generally off work and drunk on eggnog, and they probably have more attention to give. So they're
I don't
saying
know.
we'll give you 4 more months, unlike with every other insurance
Yeah,
coverage.
it seems to me like people are busier during tax season. Probably it's kind of like they're kind of trying to sneak it. Like, you know what I mean? It's like it's the more stuff that lines up January through December, the easier it is to like keep track of. I understand not everything is going to be like that, but it's easy when something's like, if the cutoff is December or January, it's easy to remember. But yeah, I think that's totally backwards. I think people are going to be less likely to be thinking of it during tax season.
Yeah, and I think I have an alternate theory, which I've been proposing for a while, which is that Obamacare is fucking unaffordable,
Yeah.
and just get over it, and people don't want to buy it, and let's repeal it. And
Yeah.
I don't know why. I think this is a final lifeline, because
Well,
we
and
know
it's
people.
also it's not to be confused with, there are some people that are further left that talk about universal health care and shit. Nothing to do with that. Obamacare is just it's it's just like a what's the word, like a chimera, or I don't know how to pronounce it, from Greek mythology. It's like a
Chimera.
mishmash. Yeah, it's like a mishmash of like communists and capitalists, like the worst of both, or something.
Well, we've had on the stream. We've had on a guy from
It's
India.
terrible. It's terrible.
We've had on a guy from India who says that Obamacare is basically a fascist policy, because it's state
Well, the
control.
very first thing they need, I mean, the very most glaring thing wrong with it is where you punish people that are too poor to sign up for it by fining them and giving them no health care. Because that's pretty fucking, like, what the hell is that? That's like, huh? What's your username on Gab? I'm trying to tag you.
Oh, Starscream 85.
Okay, yeah, it's not Chef Leopard. All right.
Yes,
Sorry, I just want to post a link.
I don't know why I picked that one
That's
for.
okay.
Yeah.
I just didn't remember what it was.
Literally everywhere else it's Chef Leopard. So, in the limited time today, I would say, yeah, I just heard the Gab thing. So the Ribbit. Those of you that aren't on Gab, get on Gab, so you can follow me.
I turned off the sound notification. I was recording like Comrade Chomsky, and it's like ribbiting during it, so I had to turn that off. That might be good. It was like, hey, there's frogs in the background.
So Obamacare, those of you that are new to the channel, that's actually why I started getting into doing videos. I did a lot of videos on why it's basically corporate welfare and everything. And this is just another thing. This is another example of the Democrats trying to prop up a government policy with Republican help, by the way, propping up a Republican policy or a Democratic entitlement policy that actually there's not a lot of people who want it. Yeah,
it's Romney care, really. So it's
right.
kind of
Yeah,
both.
absolutely.
I mean, some of the people, there are critics on the left too that just criticize it as much, where they want universal health care or some stuff that maybe you don't believe in, maybe I'm not sure about. But okay, I was just looking at the screen and getting confused because of the lag now. Sorry, but yeah, I mean, there are very vocal critics from the left because Obamacare is garbage. It's not like calling it affordable health care. That's like more like war is peace, up is down. What is it like? Hillary Clinton's all about peace and love and shit. Like, it's just like, no, it's like more like backwards Alinsky shit to call it affordable, because it's not. It made everything for most people. I think it made everything more expensive. It's not. It depends on the case, but in general, it's bad. And like I said, the worst part is you're going to punish people for not signing up. That's bullshit.
Yeah, and I've said like several times. I said on some of my earliest videos that the biggest betrayal of that, not just the corporate Democrats, but certain progressive Democrats, including Bernie Sanders and Dennis Kucinich, did was that their mistake was to vote for Obamacare as a compromise. In reality, Obamacare is actually a betrayal of universal health care, because it actually gives money to insurance companies in order to
Yeah,
give
if you
them.
pretend, sorry,
Yeah,
if you pretend that the Democrats are an actual left and progressive and shit like that for a minute, if you just forget everything you know and just forget about that and pretend that that's the liberal party, then you look at Obama having control of everything in 2009, whenever early on his presidency, and you see that he decided to go for Romneycare. Why? Because he was bought and paid for by Citigroup and all that shit. Because that guy he's not progressive. He's just, unfortunately, he's kind of a token because they just put him in there like, oh, look, he's the first black president, blah, 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 and sell him on like the external, the skin color, just like they try to sell Hillary as the first woman president. And it's like, you have to look at the person underneath the exterior,
yeah, that's exactly. I mean, Obamacare is the perfect metaphor for Obama himself. It was
Well,
all
the
packaging.
guy is like
Yeah.
bought and paid for by
Insurance companies.
Well, yeah, and specifically the bin Talal, the
The
Saudi
Saudi
Arabian
prince.
prince that was arrested and they let go when he paid a few $1 billion in fine or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, with
But I mean,
every
that guy purchased Obama, so
with,
and he's
I
also
think
kind of tied with 9/11.
I think he's bought by a lot of people, including.
Yeah.
But that would be more with respect to foreign policy. But with respect to insurance,
Well, no, the guy is a big Citigroup investor too, so it's kind of the same thing.
yeah, he's and they're still trying. The whole thing is predicated around preserving his legacy. It's not around actually helping consumers, saving Obamacare. That's what I'm talking about. That's why I haven't concentrated on it as much as in the past because there's not as much news going on with it. But
His
when
legacy is the first Kenyan president, and
right. Well, I mean, and then, but why are they trying to preserve Obamacare, Len McCarthy? The reason is it's not in order to help consumers. It's
so
as a tribute to him.
he has one accomplishment,
Right? If you can call it an accomplishment.
Well, no, I mean Hillary's biggest accomplishment is destroying Libya, and she has other accomplishments, but none of them are good things.
Don't forget feigning at the World Trade Center.
Yeah, well, and there's Russiagate. At the end of the day, well, okay, destroying a country is a pretty big deal still historically, but Russiagate is huge. So I think maybe that's her real legacy.
So how about we segue from that? I did want to mention the Obamacare thing, after the draft because, they're both equally bullshit policies, the draft and Obamacare. And I think the next thing we'll cover. What would you like to talk about next? Would you like to talk about Korea, or would you like to talk about Mother Russia?
I don't know. I mean, it's your show. I mean, we could talk about either, both. I mean, I don't have a lot of thoughts about Korea, except that I really just think you can't spin it to be bad for Trump. You just can't. You fail when you do that. I understand that we were all worried about. I mean, not everybody, but a lot of people, even supporters, people worried about the button and the little rocket man. They're like, "What's up with this?" We weren't sure what was going on. Right now, you can't. If you're criticizing Trump, it's just because you hate Trump. Because I don't see where literally, okay, it's not a done deal that the Korean War is over yet, but literally, like, Kim Jong-un is like making announcements in that direction, which is huge. It's like 65 years or something, and it's not a coincidence that Trump is in the White House. Sure, if you don't want to give him 100% of the credit, that's fine, but he gets some of it, and it's huge, and you can't say it does not reflect negatively on Trump in any way. So that's what I think of that.
So yeah, I think like you're saying, a lot of the people who who are.
I wasn't sure before when he's making those weird tweets.
I was very worried about North Korea because it's always been the real wild card in foreign policy. So I think it's an amazing accomplishment, all things considered. And what was I going to say? Oh, so yesterday a lot of people were like arguing whose credit is it that this happened, and a lot of people were saying, oh, they would have like signed the treaty anyway or whatever, and this is despite the fact that the Korean foreign minister said on TV, she said on CNN.
Oh yeah, she gave him the credit. That's awesome.
Yeah, she's like, yeah, it's because of Trump.
Yeah, well, she doesn't have to, mean, whatever. I don't really follow her, regardless of her particular politics. She doesn't have to be on the same page as CNN and Rachel Maddow. Fuck them, you know.
Yeah, she's probably like, they're like, why don't you say?
I say,
why don't you say it was because of Obama?
Sorry.
They were probably whispering to her, why don't you say it's because of Obama? And she's like, because I'm not running for Congress in Sacramento.
Yeah. But I'd say 50+% of the credit goes to Trump. If you don't want to say it's 100, that's totally fine. I say at least half of it. I say give him most of the credit, or 50+%, and whoever else. You want to thank Kim Jong-un, you want to thank the South Koreans, you want to thank the Tooth Fairy, that's fine. But I say at least 50% of the credit goes to Trump. Because that wasn't happening under Obama, and it wasn't happening under Hillary Clinton.
Well,
she had been elected.
I will say that there's one person who I'm going to give a little credit for, and it's taken me a second because I have to pull up the video. But I would say that it was Hans Blix, the UN weapons inspector, who, he took one for the team. I mean, we forgot back in 2004, he actually gave his life. Here, let's skip ahead so we don't get a copyright strike. And he basically,
that movie.
I mean, he took one for humanity. And it's taken, I know it took a delay of 14 years, but he's the one who sealed the peace treaty with his glorious death.
Well, but it won't be as good. So.
Did you see Team America, by the way?
Of course. I mean, I haven't seen it recently. It was so, it's just so good. I love the opening scene where it's like you see like it's in France with the Eiffel Tower, and you see like a little puppet, and it's like a close up, and then it zooms out, and there's a bigger puppet working the little puppet. That's like the first scene from Team America. It's hilarious.
That movie, they should have made a sequel.
They could. I mean, they still could. I mean, they still could, like I said, but I don't know if now's the right time because it looks like things are getting peaceful. So it kind of might have missed that boat. But yeah, I mean, it might not have been as good, but that's a classic.
Well, they could have. They didn't have to make one on Korea. They could have made one on
Oh yeah, anything. Yeah, I mean, they could have. Like I said, they could have had Kim Jong-il and everything. I'm just saying the timing would have had to be a little different.
Oh, hello, Hans Blix.
I mean, Kim Jong-un. I mean, because it had the Kim Jong-il was the original. That puppet was so hilarious. Like his hairdo and like his big like Larry King Yoko glasses, and it's just Yeah, man. I love how also. So sometimes they'll have they have their own funny voices like Cartman and everybody. But sometimes they'll have like an impression that's sort of good. And then sometimes it's literally like, it'll just sound like Cartman or one of the other, it'll just be one of their voices, and it'll be supposed to be like a celebrity. It'll sound nothing like them. They'll just be doing one of their voices.
Yeah, there was Matt Damon's character just said his own name.
Matt Damon. And then Alec Baldwin with the Film Actors Guild, fag.
No. I forgot that one.
Yeah. Alec.
I'm gonna have to watch it again from beginning.
I don't know if it's really Alec Baldwin in it or not. I mean, it sounds just like him. He's like, yes, and blah blah blah. Maybe it's an easy impression, but yeah, it's hilarious.
I heard
Alec Baldwin jumped the shark with his Trump shit.
I saw an interview where I think Alec Baldwin has always been an asshole though, but
yeah, it's revealed pretty much now though.
The thing is that what was it? I think it was in 2009 or something. There was an interview with the creators of South Park where they said that they actually got like a phone call from George Clooney about Team America, telling them, please don't do this movie. We're ruining our chances of winning in 2004. And they're like, South Park is ruining your chance. It's like, what are you talking about? It's, we're making a movie about puppets and making fun of you because you're. And also,
they're taking on, for the most, in the big picture of thing, they're taking on the neocon foreign policy, whether you're right or left. That is a big target, and to stand up. I mean, to say like, no, it's really cool when we have like regime change wars based on bullshit. Like, no, I mean, come on.
Well, they were the anti-war people back then, but the movie was making fun of everybody, and that's what
I know. I'm saying that's like the biggest. I think the biggest the biggest underlying theme is they're making fun of the warmongering bullshit. There's other stuff too, and they make fun of like the Film Actors Guild fag. Like they say, they make fun of those people too, of course. But the thing is those Hollywood people, they act like they're opposed to the George W. Bush and the people bombing for no reason, but they're not. We see that it's they're on the same team. You know, now it's totally revealed with they love George W. Bush now and all that. So it shows both sides how pathetic they are. You know what I mean? Because if they were a bunch of snowflakes, but they were legitimately anti-war, that's one less thing to make fun of them for, and one, you know, gives them a little bit of credibility. But they're not. They're full of shit.
Yeah, and I mean, if there's one thought that I want to give it to wrap up the whole Korea thing, it's that what people are not realizing is that this has the potential to bring back. I think it was like 25,000 troops are stationed on the Korean Peninsula. I actually knew somebody a long time ago who served in. Well, I know somebody now who served there in the 80s, but I knew somebody who served there like 10, 15 years ago. And you know, to accomplish that, first of all, we would save you know, a lot of money, and also, you know, that's basically, that changes America's image in Asia, around the world. You know, I think we'd really become, you know, I made a video last night, like really late, and I was saying, you know, does this mean is this like a new era where America is a country where, you know, we promote peace around the world? Because, you know, when I was a kid, there was, you know, but President Clinton, he did do the Dayton Peace Accord, but that was after we bombed Bosnia. He did the Oslo Accord with the Palestinians and the Israelis, but that's always been a failure. He did the Good Friday Agreement, which was a success, technically. But this would be, I think, a much bigger accomplishment than those things.
Yeah, I think Trump, I think, is really gaining respect in Asia. At least that's the way. I mean, and, you know, I'm not over there. I don't know, but to me, it seems like he is. You can tell by like when he did the tour of Asia, like how the people and the world leaders responded to him. Because the thing is they have their own thing going on, and they're not beholden to be like on the same page as Rachel Maddow, like I was saying. But in Europe, like Merkel's on the same page as Rachel Maddow, and so most of the people, the pundits, the politicians in England in power, it's all like the same asshole mentality as we have here. So they're not going to give Trump any credit for anything, and they're just going to shout Trump derangement from, you know, their media that's almost state controlled like North Korea anyway. But you know, and like when he goes, like you know, when he goes into Asia and tours and shit, the media and the world leaders, they have their own thing going on, and whether it makes you know, a bunch of neoliberal assholes in power or not is secondary. You know what I mean? But in Europe, it's still that's important. No, it's like we got to be on the Trump deranged page.
Yeah, there's I don't think, I think he's pretty much past the point where he cares about winning over people here, and that's why he shit on them on Fox News this morning.
I mean, I think he's
which is pretty funny.
I think he's won over roughly half the country. It's hard to tell with all the fake polls and stuff, but I'd say, to be, you know, if you don't want to say it's the majority, that's fine. I think it's definitely roughly half the country, and the half that doesn't like him, you know, some of them are just like, maybe, hey, you know, I don't like Trump, but I'm not looking at politics every day. But the ones that are deranged, and the ones that are like in power, that in the media, the politicians, those people are a train wreck. So they might have roughly half the country roughly in their camp, but what are they offering? They're offering, here you go, here's Trump derangement. You know, that's not offering anything. We don't need that. We've heard it for like 2 years now, and it's not helping anybody.
Oh, and you read their material when they post stuff, and it's almost like you're reading somebody who is you know, they want to be committed to a mental institution.
Well, yeah, they're in fantasy world, and like Joy Reid thinks that she can say that the Russians got in a time machine and hacked her blog posts, and it's not credible. I mean, it's one, you know, we have all the evidence from WikiLeaks and stuff proving that their narrative on Russia is bullshit. There's all, you know, one side has all the evidence, the other side has all the lies. So it's like, you don't even if you're not a Trump supporter, you just go with the people that aren't lying pieces of shit. Like, you know, there's a lot of Assange supporters that are on the left. And I just think the people that are the worst scumbags are the people that are like the anti-Assange crowd. They're saying like, oh, well, it's a talking point. I think it's bots where they say he lost his credibility when, you know, he's not being fair and balanced against, you know, somebody who threatened to drone him and rigged an election. Well, you know what? Fuck Hillary. Fuck Hillary Clinton. She's a criminal. We know this. You don't have to be fair and balanced towards her. And another thing that's stupid about the Trump deranged anti-Assange people is when they say, "How come he's not revealing Trump's corruption? What's up with that?" Well, how about the DOJ and FBI, you know, surveilling him for 2 years and not having jack shit, and you expect Julian Assange to have something? You know, maybe it doesn't fucking exist.
Yeah, I think with Assange, you know, I think it's, you know, it's acceptable to criticize maybe, you know, is it maybe if you want you can criticize his agenda, but the fact is his methods are much more airtight.
Yeah, I mean,
in the media.
Having
releasing
an
organic
agenda
documents
isn't a
is the
crime,
best.
you know?
I mean, if you're releasing organic documents that are, you know, pristine.
Yeah, and they're like, oh, it's cherry picked. Yeah, okay. Well, cherry pick me something that shows Trump rigging the GOP primary. Why don't you cherry pick that? Oh no, it's because, you know, Trump and Assange. Like, I made like a tweet earlier where I said it was like supposed to be Hillary Clinton being deranged, and she's like, you know, the Russians just weren't going to let me be president because they're just too sexist. And she's like, you know, a little known fact is Julian Assange actually, he doesn't speak a word of English, you know, just Russian and a couple words of Spanish and Ukrainian. That's it. Because they're just selling bullshit. They're just like shoveling manure. Like, oh yeah, Julian Assange, yeah, Russian operative. And the thing is you know what? I would love for Trump to give him a full pardon and a fucking medal, and he's not doing it. So what does that tell you about them colluding together? You know?
Yeah, I'm not happy about that. That's one of the main reasons I've criticized him appointing Pompeo Secretary of State.
Yeah,
because,
exactly. I mean,
yeah.
well, Pompeo might be better.
But I would say, you know, let him have like, you know, first of all, you would have to dismiss the charges that are frivolous and, you know, negotiate with him to resolve the other legal issues with him, and then it would be fine, and stop this whole charade of him being in the embassy for rape charges that were thrown out.
Yeah, and it's totally fake. It's just like, it's total fake bullshit. And it's just like a Hellbot talking point when they're like, oh yeah, Mr. Rapey hiding in the embassy, and, you know, why doesn't he just walk out or whatever? You know, why don't we drone this guy? I mean, in a way, I kind of wish he would just throw himself on the mercy of the U.S. government. But on the other hand, you know, that's dodgy. But it's like, I would like to say, okay, let's see all the evidence against him, and let's see his evidence about what the fuck is really happening.
I have a new idea.
New idea. Should have flown in.
Here's a new idea. Since we heard about Tom Brokaw and Matt Lauer, we say if you want Julian Assange to be holed up in an embassy for, you know, charges that were dismissed, we also have to confine Lauer and Brokaw in the same embassy, in the same bunk as Julian Assange, until they're brought to justice too.
Well, I bet Matt Lauer he's pretty happy this is such a weird time, because everybody's already forgot about his, you know, the button on his desk and what, you know, the rape dungeon that opens up or whatever when he pushes it. I totally forgot.
These people have like absolutely no shame.
Yeah.
They just pretend. First of all, like they all pile on Fox News, which I don't watch anyway. And you know, they'll say to you, "You're an idiot. You watch."
Telling Trump what to do.
Yeah, they're like, "You watch Fox News. You're an idiot." I'm like, well, Fox News. First of all, I don't watch Fox News. I hardly read Fox News. And second of all, when Fox News, you know, people get into contract disputes, you know, and you think they're so fake. Well, how come MSNBC hires people like Megyn Kelly and Greta Van Susteren and other ex-Fox News alumni? You know, well, what, did they suddenly become journalists because they, you know, their logo changed or something? I mean, it's
Fox News is part of MSM, you know, unfortunately, really. But of course, they get a lot of exposure because of that, because they're big and part of MSM. But that's, you know, the downside is the fake news. But they have more real news than their you know, alleged left-leaning equivalents. Like, you know, Tucker Carlson, I've been really impressed recently that he's like, wow, this dude is openly saying that the Syria stuff is bullshit. Like, that's pretty amazing for MSM to just come out and without even hedging it or anything, just say, no, this is bullshit. This doesn't make any sense. So, I mean, I don't know if I, you know, agree with Tucker on everything, but I really he seems like the most credible person there. Which, you know, people can laugh if they hate them or whatever, but Tucker Carlson is just, he's impressing me lately. And I give Sean Hannity credit when he's right about shit. Like he you know, it's pretty daring what he said about like Seth Rich and shit like that. And it's a tough situation to be in. And, you know, of course, you know, Sean Hannity's like a warmonger, for example, and all that stuff, but whatever. I just give credit where it's due, you know?
Yeah, I mean, well, the whole warmongering thing, I mean, it's not as if there is not a case for intervention. It's just that
he's hawkish.
How many interventions can we keep doing? You know, it's at a certain point you get tired of it. So, you know,
and
like
Hannity is like a Trump surrogate, but so what? We have like 98% of the media like is deranged and filled with hatred, and we have one guy that loves him. I mean, big deal.
Yeah, I mean, George Stephanopoulos on the other side actually worked for Hillary Clinton.
Yeah.
And he's the one who got the big interview with James Comey, who and you know, speaking of which, I mean, why don't we get into the whole thing with the Russia investigation getting closed?
What about Comey?
Comrade Trumpsky is in the building. Lennon McCarthy. By the way, I have an idea for the next episode. Now that you mentioned a couple ideas that I could have, but we'll talk about that off air. I guess you said you're going to need your computer back, though, right?
Well, I expect, you know, it'll just take some, you know, some hours of doing. I need to like reformat it. And, you know, I think what happened was I've got a computer, which is kind of old now, and the operating system, I hadn't updated it in a while because why bother? And then I was starting to run into roadblocks like, hey, you have to be updated to this system or this shit isn't working. And I was noticing a lot of stuff not working great. I'm like, okay, screw it. I'll just update it. And before I downloaded the update, I'm like, okay, when the hell did this thing come out? How dodgy is it? And it's like, oh, it came out last year. It should be fine. And then meanwhile, it's all like full of bugs and shit. I think what happened was I didn't do a bunch of updates for like a while. And then I had this big update on my old computer, and my computer is just like, dirt. And so it's like screwed it up. So I think I don't have like a, you know, they have like on Mac, they have like a time machine thing where you go back, and I didn't even set any of that shit up. So, but I was thinking of reformatting it anyway because it's like old and there's shit going on. So it'll just take some doing, and then I should be back. I got totally fucking triggered though. You know, because it's like it was messing up with the voices I was using. Basically, that's why I got so triggered. Is basically I use these voices like in a cartoon and shit. And it was like breaking it, and I'm like, nah. I mean, if I had to, I would just like practice talking with a Russian accent and do it myself. But, you know,
that's gonna be hard with the Ivanka. The Ivanka stuff was the funniest.
I'll speed it up. I'll raise the pitch. Well, you know, yeah. So like I edit it and shit to, yeah. Okay. So I use like, you know, I type words and have computer voices say it, but I edit it. I use crazy spellings. I'll try. Okay, I'm going to try it with a question mark. Now I'll try spelling it this way. And I actually even got into I will cut and paste Cyrillic letters just to make them pronounce shit differently. So, I mean, it actually, you know, some work goes into it, you know. Because I think, yes, it's still kind of robotic and shit, but I think, like, they have, like, certain inflections and shit. Like, especially, like you said, the Ivanka one, that's just a funny voice. Because sometimes I'll type a sentence, and the way she says it is just funny.
I still can't get over that T for the Tillerson pun that he did.
It's like meaningless.
Because it's like people like a lot of people are
it's like I'm not even like a Cat Stevens fan or anything. I just remember like there's this album called T for the Tillerman in a song, and I was just like it's just like I just use sort of like a dream logic sometimes, where it's just like I'll just think of shit and be like, yeah, I'll do that. And I'll just throw it in there. Like nobody got, I think, I haven't heard from any person that got the Dark Shadows reference I did last time, but that's okay. I'll do more and make it more obvious. Where he says, I'm doing a self-portrait and a wolf howls, and you see him in the old clothes with the hairdo like this. That's supposed to be a Dark Shadows reference, but that's okay. I'm going to do more shit like that. I don't know if you're. It was an old TV show, and then Johnny Depp did like a movie. We don't have to keep on talking about Comrade Trumsky the whole time, though.
Well, so I want to talk about the subject that Comrade Trumsky exposes, which is the whole Russia Gate
yeah.
bullshit. And I'm looking through this awful photocopied document of the House committee report, which is like impossible to navigate through. and you know, you just see like ream after ream of paper. And yeah, we spent all that fucking money on nothing, so that you know, the Democrats could, you know, salve their butthurt from 2016. So, you know, how long do you think, now that the actual House investigation is over, and we might be pending, you know, a new what's it called, a settlement between Mueller and Trump? How long do you think they're going to keep up this?
They're gonna be running with it on 2020, and they're gonna get like, I don't know, like 20% of the votes. I don't know. Instead of 40 something, 50% of the vote that you'd expect, it's gonna be like, now, like Trump will get 49 states, and then you know, I've made this joke before, but Trump gets 49 states, but he doesn't win the popular vote because there are just that many goddamn. You know, there's just that many illegal votes in California that he still wins the popular vote, even though we have 49 states voting the other way.
Yeah,
it's a mess. It's a joke. It's not, you know, I live in California, and, you know, I'm not like, you know, fucking bigot or like a racial issue, but the fact is that we have a border problem, and we have millions of people voting in elections that aren't supposed to have a vote. You know, whether you love or hate those people, they're not. You know, they're not supposed to be voting in elections. They're not citizens.
Yeah, and like the whole premise now that they have an opposition with foreign nationals, opposition to foreign nationals interfering in the election. Well,
yeah, except when they bust them in or whatever, you know, bring them in.
Yeah, except you know, when it comes to accepting, you know, money from China, you know,
or money from everybody. I mean. No, like Hillary Clinton, we talk about campaign finance and stuff. Like, there could be some legitimate thing, like, okay, if Trump had sex with Stormy Daniels and then he paid, and then somehow it's a campaign finance thing because somehow that's related. But then you have Hillary Clinton taking millions of dollars from Russia still. You know, that's still there. We still have that. And it's like, oh, well, that was that's not proven. Didn't Snopes debunk that? Yeah, when Bill Clinton got $500,000 for giving a speech in Moscow from a Kremlin bank, yeah, that's not debunked. That's a fact. So, and then we have this. There's so many scandals. There's Saudi Arabia money, Qatar, literally just taking money from anyone. I mean, from Norway, from, you know, the whole world. The Clinton Foundation is a giant racket. At best, the countries are looking for some sort of political, you know, help and stuff, which is what it is. And at worst, they're probably, you know, ordering sex slaves or something.
Yeah, I mean, there's really, in my opinion, they spent so much time on this, and it's just been
it's a losing proposition. The thing is, the Democrats and, you know, the deep state, the establishment, intelligence community and shit, what they rely on is a populace that doesn't know what's happening. And they have that to an extent, but it's less than it used to be. If this was 10, 20 years ago, or even before 2016, they would be doing a lot better because they, you know, they're still pumping out their propaganda, but there is, you know, roughly half the country is saying, no, that's bullshit. And that wasn't happening before because more people are waking up. And to directly oppose, like the press directly opposes the president, where are you going with that? I mean, it's one thing to say like, oh, we hate him because he's conservative or whatever. But no, they're saying he's literally like an enemy of the country and he's working for Russia. So you can only go so far with that until it turns out that people are like, wait a minute, these people that are saying that, those people are, you know, I don't know if you want to call it treason, but it's in that ballpark. It's certainly sedition. They're definitely on the wrong side of things, and it's really shady.
Yeah, there's I mean, the Democratic Party, basically, in order to prove somebody colluded with Russia, they had to, you know, use materials that they got through colluding with Russia. So,
like Hard Bastard said, I didn't even realize this at first. I thought maybe it was like, you know, they were, yeah, of course, the whole Russiagate thing was made up by the Clinton campaign and their friends and everything. I was aware of that picture. But the fact is that every single tiny detail, like the Australian ambassador or whatever that talked to Papadopoulos, literally like a Clinton crony, that essentially it's like, okay, looks like the dude was just planted there to start this shit. Plus, we have the lawyer that Trump Jr. met, totally 100% planted by the Clinton campaign through their Perkins Coie and like their 50 intermediaries. It all 100% goes back to the Clinton campaign. You know what I mean? It's like,
Well,
you start investigating for a second. It's like Mueller's got to be like, oh shit, okay, that goes to Hillary. Okay, that goes to Hillary. Oh, I go to Hillary and Russian uranium.
well, even like the minor leads, like what they were talking about, the story that I was talking about with Bernie Sanders being blamed for, with the Facebook groups, that was, there was almost zero connection to actual Bernie Sanders,
That
but a lot
person's
of
just like a
connection
plant.
to super PACs connected to Hillary Clinton.
Yeah.
It's like
the person who said that is just some sort of stupid David Brock plant or something. It's bullshit. The person saying that is just like some Hillary Clinton stooge. And oh, I love Bernie and blah blah blah, but really I'm just a fucking Hillary Clinton plant. Because I saw that guy. I was in those Bernie groups. I was Bernie or bust at the time, and I saw what was going on there. And there was a huge organic grassroots movement saying "fuck Hillary." I thought it was more than it was because of my perspective. I literally at the time I thought like at least half of Bernie supporters hated her, and it's like, no, okay, probably most of them voted for her, but some of them probably stayed home. But yeah, there was a significant portion of Bernie or bust people that really hated Hillary Clinton with a passion, like more than Republicans. There's still some of that now, and some of them sort of morphed over, like I did. H.A. Goodman did. He finally, he joined up with the Trump train because it was enough. It's like he had a breaking point where he just said, fuck this. I'm voting for Trump in 2020. You guys are fucking ridiculous. For me, it just happened earlier when it was a specific thing. The very first time there were any impeachment charges being drawn up, which, nothing happened with those particular ones, but it was the first time they did it. And I was like, fuck you. I'm a Trump supporter. Eat shit. You're going to try and impeach somebody for some shit that you made up.
Yeah, I think with AJ Goodman, some people are probably saying, oh, he's only one person. He was never really a progressive. Well, he's not going to be the last person who makes the switch from, Bernie or bust supporter.
Yeah, you can say he's not
Trump
a progressive
supporter.
all you want to, but if somebody loves Joy Reid and Hillary Clinton, is that person a progressive, or are they just, they're on the Democrat plantation and just, going with the Hillbot train of thought, which is really, above the Democratic Party and the left-leaning portion of that, there's just the deep state telling people we want war and corruption and shit. Yeah, and they have a Clinton-esque flavor in recent years, but really above the left-right divide, there's just the deep state. The neocons, like McCain, have the same agenda. They don't really care about gay rights and shit. That's more like they use that as kind of a divide and conquer thing, and to sheepdog people and keep them on a plantation.
Yeah, a lot of those people. I mean, the best reason that they can give. Oh, why are you a progressive? They're like, oh, I'm kind of plus size like Lena Dunham. That's like their logic. That they'll be like,
what about Roseanne Barr?
Well, yeah. Then they're like, oh, she's not actually. She'll be like, how they make fun of like black conservatives that they're not black anymore. They'll be like, well, she's not fat anymore.
Yeah. Okay.
The scale lies.
That's actually less offensive. It's kind of funny, actually. Yeah, she's not fat anymore. She'd be fine with that. She's had a little surgery here and there. I think. So if you call her not fat, she'll probably be okay with it.
So we talked about not Kanye yet, but Russia, Obamacare, the draft, Korea.
You can talk about Kanye if you want.
Yeah, how about that? What's your opinion on that? I wrote a piece today.
I love it. I love the phenomena. I mean, I haven't followed Kanye until this started happening, so I don't know anything about him. So I'm not going to pretend that I do. The whole phenomenon, though, I love it because it's literally like a guy just saying, like, hey, you don't always have to vote Democrat. And people are like, what? Oh, my God, what? Oh. And it's like he's saying the most innocuous. He's like just doing like a little poke. Like he's just doing like a little like bink, and they're like, whoa. So I think that's the best part, because the fact that I think what he's saying is actually kind of understated and not that big of a deal.
Yeah, I think that there's you know, the overreaction, because I didn't want to. I wasn't like too keen on commenting on it at first.
No, it shouldn't even be much of a story, really. I mean, it's okay that it is, because, like I said, I like that it's a phenomenon. But the fact is that if we weren't in clown world, that it would just be like, oh yeah, you know, a few people wouldn't like it and shit, but it wouldn't be like a huge thing that's like a big like, whoa, you know what I mean? That the fact that it's like that is because we're in clown world.
But yeah, the reason I ended up commenting on it was because Rolling Stone, they published this idiotic hit piece on him. Yeah. And I just have this I mean, Rolling Stone has been on my shit list since I got back into writing and everything. I don't know if you saw what I wrote, but they had a guy. Listen to this, Lennon McCarthy. By the way, subscribe to Lennon McCarthy's channel.
Thank you.
But, those of you that haven't read my piece, I think I have it in the chat. Not quite sure. Oh no, I was a douche and I didn't include my own article. Well, in any case, so yeah, I wrote up something. Well, this wasn't supposed to be mostly about Kanye anyway, but the guy who they picked to do it, he'd only written one other article in Rolling Stone before, and it was about how awesome Beyonce's album was. So this is like this guy who'd written for The Guardian too, and his big, like, everything he'd written for The Guardian was how in like 2016, if you voted for Bernie Sanders, or if you were Bernie or bust, it was because you were privileged and you could stand to.
That was before you were a Russian spy.
Right. This was before I mean, this was in March 2016, by the way. So, you know,
I know it's all this fucking bullshit spin, all of it. Like what they called. Sorry to just jump in, but they called, because I was a Jill Stein supporter for a while. You know, I'm like an ex-progressive now, so it is what it is. But yeah, where they just say, like, literally, okay, so when it got closer to election season, and I sort of followed H.A. Goodman's lead and sort of supported Jill Stein, but so she is super left-wing, and she's Jewish, and then her running mate is also, you know, a black man who's pretty, you know, he's pretty outspoken, you know, with his opinions on like progressive shit. And the idea that it's all about white privilege is so, and compared to Hillary Clinton, it's like bullshit. It's like, okay, up is down. And they're like, literally like, you're a sexist because you don't support Hillary. I support Jill Stein. Yeah, but you're a sexist. And like, you know, you're an anti-Semite for whatever reason, even though, you know, if you support Bernie Sanders and Jill Stein, but then you don't like this, or you're a racist because of this. And, you know, and meanwhile, we have Hillary Clinton's ticket that's lily white, and then she has like a black, Jill Stein has a black running mate, and they're saying people are racist and shit. Like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, I remember that they were the other one, like Gary Johnson. I was originally going to vote for Gary Johnson, and then the Aleppo movement happened.
A little bit of a joke, yeah.
Yeah, everybody was like, "Oh, this guy doesn't know what the hell he's talking about," and the Democrats.
Just a little bit of a clown.
Yeah, the Democrats were making fun of him too, and I'm like, "Wait a second, you guys actually fucked up Aleppo." So there would be nobody would know what Aleppo was if you had.
The first time I heard of Aleppo for like, I mean, I noticed it was literally like Gary Johnson though. I mean, I heard about Syria for years, but literally like I had an Aleppo moment. I'm like, yeah, okay, Aleppo. So that, okay. Yeah. I didn't know what that was either. Okay. I mean, I follow shit now more, but at the time I was like, yeah, I don't know what that is either.
Yeah. They were trying to make the case that as you know, as president, okay. Candidate. You can't.
Somebody should have briefed him. I'll give you that.
Yeah, and
it should have been something he was briefed on, so he doesn't make that mistake.
Well, that was one of the moments. The other moment where I jumped off the train was when Gary Johnson was asked something about illegal immigrants, and he's like, "Oh, that's an offensive term." I'm like, "Yeah, shut up."
Yeah, I mean the you know the left in quotes. They jumped the shark with, you know, I understand that like it's legitimate if black people, if most of them don't want to be called Negroes. I get that things change and shit, and that's totally legitimate. And like the term African Americans is fine. I noticed that like black people hasn't become offensive term, which is good, because I just don't like the euphemism treadmill where it's like they're deliberately saying, oh, this is offensive now you have to say this, now you can't say that, now you have to say this, and it becomes, after a while you get burned out on it and you realize they're doing it on purpose, and there's like a euphemism treadmill where, okay, so most people admit that the word like retard is generally kind of, maybe that's kind of offensive. But the thing is the term retard has the exact same background as moron, idiot, and imbecile. It's just that it evolved a little bit later, and idiot and imbecile and moron, the Three Stooges used those. Everybody used them, and we accept that. That means you're a dumbass, and it's okay to call, it's insulting, but it's not like, oh my God, some people have low intelligence, and that's like, really, that's not cool. Like, no, it's just, you could call somebody an idiot, and you're not going to be offended for that reason. But then the term retard, obviously people were still saying retarded up until recent decades, and now it's sort of like, you don't say that. So in the scheme of things, it's like, wait a minute, that's offensive and shit. But when you look at what they're doing with the euphemism treadmill, you see that maybe like 80% of it's bullshit and 20% of it's like, okay, yeah, things change and I get that. Most of it's bullshit. So like sometimes I will say immigrants, sometimes I'll say illegal aliens. But that's kind of a euphemism treadmill situation.
Yeah, and getting back to that article by the guy about Kanye, so the connection that I was making was that in 2016, this was a black liberal gay writer in The Guardian, a British newspaper, a British newspaper that's an established newspaper, saying to, voters in general, oh, if you don't vote for Hillary Clinton, you vote instead for Bernie Sanders, you're privileged. Now in 2018 with Kanye West, he's saying, oh, well, Kanye West has turned his back on black people. And
no, he turned his back on the neolibs.
Right. The point is, like this guy thinks because you write for Rolling Stone, or back in the day you wrote for
Hillary Clinton's not a black person either.
Right. And the thing is, his whole thing was, I remember the line was that there appear to be certain black celebrities that want the trappings of white privilege. Well, and he mentioned Diamond and Silk in the same breath as he mentioned Kanye West. Well, Kanye West built his career, from his rapping and producing talent.
Yeah.
Diamond and Silk built it on Facebook from, doing like jokes and whatever, and using insults and comedy and stuff. Who did this guy get his big break from? From Rolling Stone and The Guardian, which are establishment media newspapers. So he's
Guardian is terrible. It's like the Washington Post and the New York Times and CNN like rolled into one. It's garbage. And don't they like beat the drum for Syria and just pure like neoliberal propaganda bullshit. And what they have in England with the with free speech situation, it's just, and the immigration situation, and there's obviously no Second Amendment. They have a lot of shit which is actually worse than like what we have. Very similar, but it would drive me batshit crazy if I'm making like a post on Facebook. I'm not on Facebook now, but I post something on Twitter, and instead of just Twitter being retarded and banning me or something, now the government's like arresting me. Like, no, that's bullshit.
Yeah, it's really become
same with like Germany and stuff. It's ridiculous.
It's become like obscene what's happened. And they just posted a video, Tommy Robinson, and
the same people don't give a shit about like rape gangs and stuff, but then it's like, oh well, it's illegal to like wolf whistle, but then if you're like in a an Asian rape gang, they're going to look the other way because they don't want to be accused of being a racist.
Yeah, they just
like a white guilt at its worst.
Well, I think people were much happier, and I'm saying, maybe I'm making a generalization, but we both remember the '90s. I'm assuming, and we could you could cuss, you could download pirate music, you could call 900 numbers. You could, I
don't accept some of the bullshit where they try and change shit, where they do a slippery slope or they're boiling the frog or whatever. And some of it's just like, no, I don't accept that. I don't accept that. Like on Twitter, I use the word retard. I don't use it every day all the time, but I use it sometimes, and I'll spell it with a 3 instead of an E, because I've literally Like I literally got like suspended for like a couple days or a week or something because I used the word retard like a couple months prior. And like there are people with no job or life or bots or whatever. They're like, oh, let's do a search on the word retard. Okay, let's ban this person. Fuck you. I don't even accept that. That's why I don't put an asterisk. Like, okay, I swear like probably too much, and then I try and use asterisks sometimes because some people get sick of all the F-bombs everywhere. But I don't put an asterisk for retard because there shouldn't be an asterisk. It makes me mad when people try and say like that's taboo, and I don't accept that that's taboo. You're an asshole. Fuck off. You know? Yeah. I will accept if there's a platform where they say, hey, you know what? We don't have the 7 dirty words or something classic old school censorship. Like we don't do the 7 dirty words here. So watch your language. I'm cool with that. You know what you're working with. It's not like suppressing an idea.
I'm just watching. There's a story that somebody in the chat brought up that.
Oh, there's somebody in the chat finally.
there's a few people.
Okay, cool.
I mean, it's. I think we hit on a bad time Friday afternoon.
No, it's all good.
But there was Vote Ren in November shared this story from, and I found it where
Cleveland. Yeah, like the Cleveland show. Is that who's running now?
Yeah,
Cleveland from the Cleveland show is running.
So this guy he bet he has to eat literal horse shit because of the draft, and this is what this is what people worry about here in Cleveland.
Yeah, and a Cleveland steamer or something.
No, I mean, well, yeah, the Cleveland steamer thing I think is unrelated. Yeah, that I heard about that one. I think some people who were too sensitive about that were calling it. You know, people from here were like, "Oh, let's just call it the Pittsburgh steamer." Then people will think that it's from somewhere else. But it's
a Pittsburgh platter. You can't fool us. That's a Pittsburgh platter. That's a totally different deal.
so anyway,
excuse me, I'll have the poo platter.
Jeez,
they have that. That's a Hawaiian dish. It's like the poo platter.
We're circling the drain on this one, aren't we?
Circling the wagons and circling the drain. That's what the Democrats are doing. First we circle the wagons, then we circle the drain. That should be a meme.
So, like the final point I want to make, I think I'm gonna cut it short in like 5-10 minutes. But the real issue that I'm having, you know, at the end of you know, this whole Kanye thing is that you know, I see him, and you know, I know you don't follow football, but I see him as the anti-Kaepernick. You know, Colin Kaepernick, he became famous largely because he was a huge bitch, and he couldn't take being put on the bench. And you know, he was trying to get attention, so he would get traded, and he became, you know, now they say I think
he got super famous, you know, as a result of his you know, his political shit. He got super famous.
Yeah, they just said he got an Amnesty International award today for.
Well, Obama has a peace prize for nothing, so who cares?
Right. And the thing is, like the you know, it used to be Amnesty International. That used to be for people who, you know, had been political prisoners for decades. This is for a guy who can't get a gig on an NFL squad because he pisses. You know, he wants to be more of a politician than he is an athlete, more of an activist than he is an athlete too. And he said things to, you know, these teams don't want this asshole driving their ticket sales.
Well, they're shitting on the average fan, not everybody. If you're left leaning and you like football, then you're not being shit on. But the average fan, the thing is, people have pointed out, well, you don't really need it. You don't need the Star Spangled Banner in the game anyway. That's true. The thing is, it's like a fan service. The average fan likes that shit. So in a way, it's kind of shitting on them, and they're sort of pissing on it, breaking the sort of spell of like, yeah, they love their football and their American flag and shit and just want to chill. And, you know, like I said, if they're more left leaning, they're not thinking that. But for the majority of the fans, that's what they want. They don't want this kneeling bullshit, and they're kind of shitting on them and kind of ruining it. Like if most of the fans were left leaning and said, we don't need the national anthem, let's take it out, and there was a consensus, that's fine, but that's not how it is.
So listen to this logic here for a second, Lennon McCarthy. who you should subscribe to. So the issue I'm seeing here is that when Kaepernick came, when he came to the public consciousness, most people thought he wasn't a good quarterback anymore. He was benched in favor of like a quarterback who was, probably marginally better, who'd also been a failure, Blaine Gabbert. He becomes this public crusader for something, for fixing something about the police that we never found out about.
Yeah.
We don't know what his goal is. And then, I mean, hear me out. He doesn't get signed to a team the next year because he doesn't want to sign with the team that's offered him a new option, which is his old team, San Francisco. He says, well, fuck you guys. I'm going to go somewhere else. So then nobody else wants to sign him because he's a huge pain in the ass. His girlfriend basically tweets out stuff defaming the owner of the Baltimore Ravens when he's trying to negotiate a contract with them. So nobody wants to deal with his headache. So they've made him some sort of like Christian martyr. And they've said about him, there's going to be, a collusion lawsuit against the NFL for keeping him out and whatever. So that's how they treat him because he speaks up for, a left-wing idea, and that's the way the media, they've held him up to be this hero.
Yeah, he can do what he wants. The thing is if your job is you're an NFL player, just realize that, like somebody mentioned that the military had been like paying for the national anthem. I mean, that is what it is. My opinion is I don't really care. I don't like football. I don't care if they do the national anthem or not. But, if most fans weren't into that and they agreed with the players kneeling, it would be a totally different situation where most of the fans don't like that. And it just depends where you work. If you work somewhere that's super liberal and shit and you do a bunch of liberal stuff, then maybe you can earn you brownie points. But if you work somewhere that's conservative and you're doing that shit all the time, maybe it's not going to help you.
Yeah,
and that's just how it is. It's a job. It's like you have the right to protest and free speech. It doesn't mean that, if you can, it depends on what your boss thinks about that. If your boss is cool with you like going into work and, like wearing a pussy hat and saying, hey, boss, you're a fascist, and I'm going to march back and forth. If that's cool with your boss, then fine, but maybe he's going to fire you.
Well, notice how they have such a different attitude between Colin Kaepernick speaking out when he's a member of a team and Kanye West speaking out when he's a multiple Grammy award winning artist. He's one of the most popular, musical artists of our generation. And they're like, well, you should shut up. You shouldn't have an opinion. What are you? You think?
No, I mean, he can do whatever he wants to. I'm just saying he's just taking a big dump in the middle of his job.
Right.
He can do whatever he wants to. But, you can go into work and say, hey, boss, you're a fascist. I'm going to take a shit on your desk. And maybe your boss is cool with that, and maybe he's not.
First Amendment.
Yeah, I mean, okay, technically,
do the
shit on somebody's desk, that's really criminal. So that's, a little exaggeration. But you can tell your boss he's a giant jerk or whatever. That's fine, but he might fire you.
So we have somebody criticizing in the chat. The Kraken says he took an NFL team to the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
I'm going to answer this guy. It's about equal protection under the law. Well, look, he took a team to the Super Bowl.
He can do whatever he wants to with that shit.
He had one of the best defenses. So this is NFL stuff, so you might get bored. Yeah. But this is NFL stuff. So the reason they got to the Super Bowl wasn't because of Colin Kaepernick. They had one of the best defenses in the league. And, once they did get to the Super Bowl, and he did play well, but he was, coming off the bench. Their other quarterback had been injured, and they later traded him. Okay, so they'd been doing well under Alex Smith. So he gets to the Super Bowl, loses the Super Bowl, comes back the next year, has a pretty good year. Then they get eliminated in the championship game against Seattle. Then the next year he starts to suck, and then he gets his coach fired, Jim Harbaugh, because he can't play anymore and he keeps getting injured. So then he loses his starting position the next year. Okay, that's what happened with Kaepernick. So, he took an NFL team to the Super Bowl.
No, he can do whatever he wants to. It's just that you can't force the NFL to love it, and you can't force the fans to love it. Sure, some of them think that it's great or whatever, but you can't just be like, you can't sell like the whole like NFL, like all the fans on like, yeah, that's great. They all need to be kneeling and shit because most people just don't buy that. Yeah, some of the left leaning people agree with that. I personally, I don't care if if everybody who loved the NFL was left leaning and they all thought that shit was great and it was like the Oscars, it wouldn't affect me. It's fine.
Here we have the Kraken. Let me just address this guy. The Kraken, if you want to come on this show and if you want to make the Kaepernick argument, which I've had before with number 80, you know, you can contact me. We can do this 50 times. And I can prove again and again that the guy is an asshole. Okay, he's an asshole. There's plenty of other people who preached for his cause in the NFL. Richard Sherman is a genius, and he agrees with Colin Kaepernick. So Richard Sherman, you know, he believes in the same thing, but he's a much smarter person about it, and he's still playing football. Colin Kaepernick is a joke. He's a human farce. He's a parody of himself. The man runs around, pretends that he's an activist. You know, I will never respect.
Yeah, and doesn't he have like aren't his like parents like white and like he's actually like has like an affluent background and shit?
Well, he was adopted. He originally he came from a bad background, but he was adopted and you know, he was adopted by a white couple, and his mom was white. His dad left him, who was black. You know, there's a lot of I'm not going to say don't have any opinions and don't believe in this or whatever, but the fact is, you know, when you have somebody who became such a symbol because of the media. You know, if the media had not blown him out of proportion,
yeah, well, it's a whole like
he might still be playing in the NFL today. I think it's largely because of the media attention to him that his stunt backfired.
It gets swept up. To me, it's like once it becomes associated with the Democrats and the MSM and all that entire crowd, it just becomes like discredited. I mean, it's fun. Listen, he has the right to protest. Everybody does, but like I said, it depends. You know, if it's on the job, it just depends what your boss thinks about it.
Yeah, I'm going to tell the Kraken if he wants to come and debate sometime. It's not going to be today because I don't have time today. But if he wants to, so I'm just going to put in my Twitter handle. So yeah, you can contact me. We can have this discussion as many times as it takes because.
And some of these people should protest war, like they talk about, like Muhammad Ali and people protesting in the past. And you know what? If you're going to take a stand about one thing, only if you're going to take the NFL and just bring the entire thing to a screeching halt and piss off everybody, why don't you say no war? How's that? You know what I mean? If you're going to pick one issue, why don't you pick something that is like really resonates more? If you're going to protest the American flag and make a big stink, why don't you say no war, is my opinion.
1 second. I'm arguing with this other guy off. You know, there's another guy who's arguing with me also about race on Facebook too, and he's distracting me as well. But maybe I should close more windows before I go on. But I'm such a mess, by the way. If you saw the way I work, I don't know if you're the same thing, but
you see the bookshelf, so.
Oh my God, yeah. I mean, we're like twins or something.
We're actually next to each other. Right. Do the thing where like I'll reach my hand like over and up here, like in your screen or something.
Here, we'll both do. You know, you do the Kaepernick this, and I'll do the dab with what's his name, Cam Newton, and you know, we'll make like a nice meme of solidarity or whatever. That look, like, I mean, I don't mean to beat a dead horse, but you know, but the final point I'm trying to make is that, you know, freedom of speech. Yeah, Colin Kaepernick deserved freedom of speech. He doesn't deserve freedom from criticism, and the reason that we criticize those of us that did criticize him. I'm not lumping in Lennon McCarthy here because I'm not sure I'm not sure how interested he was in it. But from the beginning, I said the guy was a fraud. He was a fake. And one of the reasons was because the media did go and promote Kaepernick's cause. And part of
I'm sure he's working with organizations that are connected with Soros and all that shit. It's just it could even start out organically, but then they'll probably contact you and say, here's like our game plan and all that. And so then they're just in bed with like the worst people on the face of the planet. So, you know.
So let me see here. Somebody said that the Panthers are getting sold this month.
Slavery.
Yeah.
They'll sell you it, and you won't. They'll split up your family. They'll sell you to another team. It's slavery.
See, the Kraken is in the chat. I have to address this. He's saying, well, the issue is that there's zero black NFL owners and people are being blackballed or whatever.
Okay.
But the fact is that if you really, if you want to criticize the NFL, this is the best channel to do it on. I have, I've talked about how it's a horrible business. You have cities that have lots of inner city people that, they take your tax money and they give it to NFL owners.
Yeah, I don't think they're saints either.
Right. That we're not on the side I mean, neither
and
of us.
I'm not saying he needs to just STFU. I'm just saying that, a lot of people don't necessarily resonate with that message. Some people do, but some people don't. And a lot of the fans and a lot of the NFL are not resonating with that so much, and he has to deal with it.
Yeah, and I just forgot what I was about to say. Yeah, his whole thing about it's the black people who are getting put down by the NFL. Well, the St. Louis Rams, when they were in St. Louis, they did the whole raised fist protest for Ferguson. The next year, when the team moved to like Los Angeles, did any of them protest that? No. So they're not actually connected to the communities.
Yeah, there could totally be issues, but it's not like we have like an apartheid where like black people can't be football players, or like where they get screwed over where it's like they're going to favor the white guy like 9 times out of 10. I mean, I get that there's issues. I remember, like, I think I was in high school. It was a long time ago when the Washington Redskins won the Super Bowl. I don't remember when, around 1990. See, I'm not a football guy. It was a long time ago when the Redskins won the Super Bowl, and they had like, it was the first black quarterback in the Super Bowl, and that was like a big deal. And like, I think that's great, and they should have like just equal, opportunity across the board. But like basketball and football, like I think the majority of the players are black, and that's fine. It is what it is. Like some of the stuff where they want a quota for everything, like they say there's not enough female computer programmers or some shit. Well, tell girls to program computers if that's what they want to do. But if they want to do some other shit, then let them do that.
Yeah, there's not enough cross-eyed sharpshooters either. Anyway, I do have to run, but thanks, Lennon McCarthy.
Thanks for having me on.
And thank the Kraken. Seriously, if you want to talk about Kaepernick or anything else NFL, shoot me at Twitter. We can have you on, and anybody else as well. If you have a topic you want to propose, or you want to come on a live stream, or you have an idea, please let me know. You can find me on all the social media below. You can find this Lennon McCarthy on YouTube, on Twitter. Your Comrade McCarthy.
Yes.
And on Gab, Lennon McCarthy.
Yes.
And that's about it. So have a good night,
Thanks
everybody.
a lot, man.
Have
all right. See ya.